Hello everyone, welcome to the news desk here at Rotterdam. Rich Hagon alongside Brian David Marshall, the Pro Tour historian, and Pro Tour champion, Mr. Simon Görtzen. So the three of us, earlier on, we had a look at a team sealed build, and we worked our way through the colours, and we got to the double cloud blazer, and we kind of had a look and got where we were. But sometimes you just want to look at the rares. So as we start part two, we just assembled our 12 rares. Let's see what we got. And it was 12 rares. We didn't have any foil rares hiding out against uncommons or commons.
I never open a masterpiece.
So that's where we were with the artifacts and the gold cards. So let's show you, if we move on from there, let's show you our set of rares. So there we are. So we've got Ether Storm Rock, captured by the Consulate, Padim, Ether Squall Ancient, Insidious Will, boo, Marionette Master and Demon of Dark Schemes, hooray, Lashnu Hellion, Fateful Showdown, one artifact, it's Dynavolt Tower, Bristling Hydra, and they didn't have room apparently for the word incredibly in front of Dubious Challenge.
Dubious indeed, yes.
Yeah, so Simon, our rares, what do we think?
A little over average maybe, but not too exciting. You really want to have some cards that can win games on their own. And apart from Demon of Dark Schemes and Ether Squall Ancient, most of these are not too exciting in most of the decks that I envision in this format.
Okay, so why don't we look at once we got rid of some of our rares, what the ones we're actually kind of keen to play. So now, BDM, we're down to 7. Unsurprisingly, we got rid of Dubious Challenge, but we kept the Bristling Hydra.
Yeah, so we have an Esper deck, a green deck, and an energy deck here. I actually think the Padim and the Aether Squall Ancient really are pushing you in very different directions. Do you agree with that, Simon?
Absolutely. They go into an artifact deck. Padim does not just trigger automatically. You have to work for it. But if you do, you can also have a big advantage thanks to your artifacts having hexproof. Self-assembler and Padim is like the dream constellation.
So now you're going to see a blizzard of cards on your screen because we put together every card that we actually wanted to play, potentially. So that's what it looks like, and that is kind of what was going on outside these walls while the teams were building this morning. You had literally, okay, here's everything we probably want to build our pool out of. And Simon, if you can, summarize where we got to when we looked at this lot.
Yeah, this picture shows you how our colors are positioned, and especially that the blue is divided between artifacts and energy synergies. You see how neatly the gold cards fit into the picture. We have the Cloud Blazers, the Whirler Virtuoso, and so on. And you see the depth of black. That's just really important. If you build a single black deck with this pool, you will lose out on a lot of black cards.
Right, so at that point, BDM, we kind of knew that the black wanted to split.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we also know is if you look at this, there aren't any green cards that we were super excited about at this point. The green was not very deep and did not feel like something that we had a strong pull towards.
Simon, something you said yesterday when we were building this. You said it was important to be very aggressive in cutting cards early because there's no rule that says you can't put them back later.
Yes. So what you usually want to do is you don't take out all the cards and you will never look at that pile again, but you want to make your decisions based on the real power that's contained within your pool. So the 5 mana 3/4 flyers of this set, sure, you might want one in the end because of your curve, because of defensive or aggressive reasons, but it's not going to guide your decision making when it comes to who plays which colors, which color can we split, who gets the artifacts, who gets the energy, and so on.
So a deck that you mentioned pretty much early in the piece at the end of the last round, BDM, was red, white, and vehicles. So let's take a look at our first stab at what that deck might have looked like. So we'll put that up for you now. So there we are, and as we look through it, 5, 8, 11, 14 creatures, the 3 Renegade Freighters and the Sky Skiff up there. Do we like the look of this?
I think we like where this is going. We're not playing Inspired Charges, which were an option. We could have maybe played a version of this deck that went a little wider, but this is really a vehicle deck that we're playing.
Triple Friday, double Artisan. somehow all the red and white cards find a home. The red and white cards that we really want to play find a home, and we are not too concerned about the rest that we are not able to play.
And two drops that make our vehicles better,
Right.
which is really the appeal here over maybe red-black vehicles.
Yeah, Gish of Dace and Veteran Motorist.
Yes,
of course.
absolutely.
Okay, so somebody would be playing a red-white deck. Might be me, but what does that leave us with? So now, Simon, things get a little bit tricky. Let's take a look at our next collection. And these are essentially trying to build the other two decks once you've taken out not just the red and white cards you're using for the red and white deck, but the whole concept of that red-white deck. This is what you're left with.
So basically, once you take out the white and the red cards, you have a problem with Whirler Virtuoso and Cloud Blazer. Where do they go? That's the one question. The second question is, what do you split? Do you split the deep black and distribute the removal maybe? Or do you split the blue, which is really easy to split? The cards that say artifacts on them go into a blue-black artifact deck. The cards that say energy on them go into the blue-green energy deck with a lot of the thriving creatures and this game plan.
And the decoction module is also
Decoction
really nice in
module,
that deck.
either Squall Ancient, of course, to top the curve.
So if we just put that full screen again for you and show you again that whole list. Now there are an awful lot, Simon, of 2-drops down there, which on the face of it is kind of nice. But I mean, some of those are pretty underwhelming cards. I can see a Long Tusk Cub there, which I'm properly excited by. But you know, there are a lot of decent 2-drops around. I'm not sure they're all there necessarily.
Yes, this is not 2 decks. This is just which cards do we have available, how do the curves look, and you can see that we can fill the 2-drop slot nicely. Even the 3-drops are nothing to complain about, but then it just drops off completely. We have a single 4-drop in a blue-green deck that wants to be as aggressive as possible. That's where the alarm bells start ringing.
And two things that really stand out about this deck in terms of what you're expecting out of green-blue. I mean, we have the 2 Aether Meltdowns, but they're not hard removal. We don't have the Hunt the Weeks or anything like that. And we also don't have any mana fixing. One of the things that we've seen on the floor time and time again is that if you see a green-blue energy deck, it's probably a Whirler Virtuoso deck. Right?
I would say that this is one of the weakest energy decks you could build in the format on average.
It's basically Aether Squall Ancient or no.
Yeah, and even that is not always going to win the game. Tidy conclusion and your Ancient goes to the graveyard.
So at that point, as you can tell, we're not super happy. So we go back to the drawing board. Okay, so we tried several different configurations. The weird bit is we still kind of ended up wanting to play the red-white. We made a few little tweaks. Let's show you what we did with our red-white deck, because in the end, that was one of the strongest 3 that we could come up with. So let's show you our final red-white deck, and we've still got the 3 Renegade Freighters and the Sky Skiff up there. And Simon, we're still kind of happy with this deck.
Oh, I'm super happy with this deck. We're playing all the good cards. Triple Freighter with a build to smash, a build to last. We have the good double white cards in there, Aerial Responder and either Stormrock. Bunch of red removal, even a Skyweller's Shot, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah, this deck is really, really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Woe to the person that tries to double block our Renegade Freighter.
But now we need to do something good with the rest. So let's see what our second deck ended up as. And BDM, this one I guess is the deck that you would have played in tournament action. Here's green-black.
Yeah, it's sort of like green-black, sort of energy, but what really shines here with this deck is the fact that you have 2 board sweepers in Hazardous Condition and the Demon of Dark Schemes.
So Simon, how good is this deck?
I think it's very good considering what we were working with. If you compare this to the blue-green core that we were looking at, which was maybe a 2 out of 10, I think this is probably a 7 out of 10.
So that was good, all right. So if we've got red-white done, and then we've got green-black, so that certainly leaves all the blue, the rest of the black. But what about those Cloud Blazers? Did they make it in? Let's take a look at our final deck in our pool for you. Here it is. And yes, we do have the 2 Cloud Blazers. Now, one of you two, explain to me, why have we got 3 self-assemblers, but none of the 4 Gear Seeker Serpents?
I'm going to let Simon explain that, because if this was a tournament and there was probably 10 minutes left to go, we'd probably still be bickering about this a little bit, like in terms of maybe personal preference. But I think I would ultimately defer to Simon here on the self-assemblers and Padim combo.
We could have played up to 4 Geeseeker Serpents, but the more of them you play, the clunkier your deck becomes. We already know that we want to play Marionette Master, Tidy Conclusion. We want to splash the Cloud Blazers in the deck with double Prophetic Prism. So we would have made our deck clunkier and clunkier. And if you look at the early drops, we don't actually have that many artifacts. So I thought it was much more important to get the card advantage engine rather than the evasive threat, which a control deck doesn't necessarily need.
Right, and let's be honest, one thing we saw at the GP last weekend is that almost every team had a self-assembler deck, because they all just go in one of them, and sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4. So we're kind of in the middle there. So what did we learn? Simon, give us a conclusion. Just how tough is it to come up with 3 really good decks in an hour against the clock?
It's a race against the clock, basically. You have to work together really well. The fact that you're 3 people and you each want to play 2 colors normally means one color has to be split, and that for me is always the key decision, where you have to and you can't just look at a pool and say this is the right split. You have to really go through the motions, and that means building 6, building 9 decks until you actually know what you want to do.
BDM, do you reckon we make day 2 with this collection of 3 decks?
I think we can make day 2. That red-white vehicles deck I think is very, very good. Renegade Freighter hits hard and it hits early.
Yeah.
Well, good game team coverage. We'll see how we would have paired up against the field. That hopefully gives you an insight into the world of Team Seal. We'll be right back.